Okay, let's look at a couple websites or personal websites that I thought are pretty good actually, but they're not perfect. But you can give you some inspiration around this, which you could do too. Again, this is not required, but it can be a nice way to kind of show off your stuff. And so we're going to look at two here. The first one we're going to look at is Just Design Tan. You can see justdesigntan.com. Oh, by the way, when you watch these, if you happen to go to these websites, the people could change them anytime, take them down, whatever. So if they're not there, it's okay. But at least you can get some ideas from this recording before they disappear, or maybe they'll still be up there and you can look at them on your own. So I'm at Just Design Tan, and you can see it's a nice, website or personal website just for her. Just Design Tan, or probably her name is Just Tan, I'm going to assume. But she's a designer. You can see it says, "Hi, I'm Jess, designer plus the developer." So right there, I know what she is. She's a designer and developer. There's pictures, kind of nice. And you can see right here, if I want to get at her resume, it's right there. It's easy to find. I can just click on it and take a look at her resume. In fact, let's do that. So I'm clicked on it, and you can see it's just a nice, good, clean resume, with her experience. She's got skills and stuff on the side here. You saw her design, programming, software. So it's really organized nice as far as, when we get to the resume section, as far as just a way of doing it. Interesting thing she did, she put her education certification to the top. Most times people would put that towards the bottom. You can do it either way, but if she's got something that she really wants to call out with this particular university she went to, or that she's Oracle certified is really key, then she wants to really make sure that's known, and then all these other good keywords for searches and just that you know what she can do are all there with Java, HTML, whatever it might be. But let's go. So that's so you can get her resume easily, and there's her contact information. There you go. So you can contact her really easily. A short thing about who she is: product designer from Singapore, with focus in user experience, visual, interactive design. And then this was a little knock on it. When I first went here, I thought these were just things like she just liked things like this Work It Out app or Pinteresting or Time Zone Scheduler or all these different things that I think she has on here. And it took me a while to figure out that this is actually samples of her work. So if so if I was hiring her or whatever, if I was to give her some advice, I'd say put something in here like my sample portfolio or examples of my work, and then she can go into these different things and maybe you can call it this. This is a UI UX example, so it's this one. And then as you go down further, you can see there's concept, branding, web development, and then she's got one here when she did her internship. You can see some stuff that she's samples of her work. So this is great. This is one of the big deals with a personal website, particularly if you're a graphic designer or web developer or something where you can show off stuff. Maybe it's projects you worked on, whatever. You can show off stuff in addition to your resume. That's where a personal website can really shine. And she's done a nice job. I mean, you can look out, it's laid out nice. Just wish I would know right ahead, because whenever for people who are recruiting and hiring, they don't spend much time. So you got to get to that point fast. And you can click on something. Let's look at the scheduler here. So you just click on it, and it just shows. You can see how she's always got a resume there. So if you like what you see, you can always get at it. And then then a little bit about what this time zone scheduler is, and then she lays it out in a good kind of business case setting. See, so she defines the problem. She looks at the current workflow, with this particular type of design that she had with UI UX, what the solution was. So this is again what she's creating, and her process that she used, to make that happen with these three categories of elements, states, and action. And then she goes in each of those elements. What are the elements? Different states that we're looking at. Whether it's a meeting block, tentative, confirmed. This is a scheduling type program again that she's done. The different fonts she's used. And the actions that you can take within this program, like changing dates and time and adding participants. So she's showing all these skills that she can do. There's a night view, there's a initial design, final design, see how that looks nice. So it really is a nice way to describe this project. And then, and she can talk about some inspiration, like with this watch, for example. And then in conclusion, as far as how it would look and different things. So what a nice little example there. So if I was looking at Jess for designing, I'd say, wow, that looks really good. And I might be curious to see some other ones, like, oh, maybe I need her for web development. So let's take a look at the Dear Carrie online forum for mental health related topics. And you can just kind of see some screenshots and different things she's done, some of the information that she is pulling from as far as information around, as far as mental health, how many people are affected, all that, and then into the branding of this particular website as far as from a brand and design standpoint. See, look at all these nice images, logos, what she did. So she's done a really nice job kind of showing what she did and how she did it. So this is a really nice example of a website. It doesn't, again, have to be this good or perfect. And you can see here how I even give her a little knock. I make it easy for me as the hiring manager. Maybe if I was hiring for this position, I would have figured it out right away. But just make it easy. Like she makes the resume easy to find. You don't have to go searching for it or the bottom or anything. She makes it easy to find. So that's a nice example of a portfolio type of personal website. Another website you could do is like where the whole personal website is your resume. And that's what we've got here with Pascal. Let me switch over to him. Here's Pascal Van Gramerten. You can see his address here. Again, that could change as far as his web address. He could change his content. But it's a good example as we see right now. And he's got an interactive resume right here on the internet, on his internet. And if you scroll down, one thing he does that's nice, it starts with his profile. And again, that short thing, who are you? I'm a creative PHP web developer. Boom, right there. You could even add something like, and I've helped whatever number of companies, or I helped this company achieve this. A nice measurable result might be a nice thing in there too, but short, sweet is good too. A little bit about him. First sentence, I'm an all-around web developer. Okay, there, you got kind of a feeling. I wouldn't put the age on there. That's just me. Both pro and con around age discrimination. Donate things, so if he also uses it to raise money. One thing he did that's nice here as far as with his, on the right-hand side here, is, and as a web developer, again, he's showing off his skills. If you're not a web developer, don't worry about it. You could do a basic web page. You could hire somebody to do it, but as a web developer, he wants to show off a little bit more and needs to. So here you can see where you can just jump right to things. So if I was interested in projects, like, well, I'm curious what he has done before. I might just click that button, and it'll take me right to his projects, and I'll see all these different kind of projects. But let's go back up to his profile. So that's a nice thing to show off his skills and get me to where I need to be too. And then it shows his experiences. So that's his work experience. Got a nice little quote here. Again, I'd rather have Pascal's quote. I'd rather have a quote from Pascal, some philosophies from him. But this is nice too. Bill Bryson's a nice guy. So that's good. And then goes into his education. Went to Penn. That's nice. And some of the different things that he's done, his bachelor, again, high school, and most of the times the professional level, you don't care, but maybe it's like some super great high school or something. Most of the people are looking at, college or university, and then gets in the careers. Again, he starts with education. Again, maybe Penn is something he really wants to show off, particularly that gamification courses and things he's done, because that's what he's interested in. You saw we're talking about gamification. You saw on the front top here how his background is a game or comic type related thing. So that ties in. But if we go back down to career here, this is where, most employers are going to want to go right away and say, well, all right, what type of jobs have you had? You've been a senior web developer at Star Select, and then also Secret Lab, and then what you did with Caviar Digital and Woopla and all that. So you can kind of see different things. He's got connections there, so if you're curious about the websites or find out more, he's got nice links there. Using links in your personal web page is very helpful, so people learn a little bit more. Especially if you're describing something that you might have done for them that might be visual to anybody going to their site, especially if you design the site, you might want to call that out and say, click here or people can figure it out to click there. Now you can see he's got lots of jobs here. I don't know if you need to list all these jobs, but especially some of this part-time work or whatever. But, again, it's showing off that even his part-time stuff, he's been doing web development, PHP development. You can leave that up to you. But again, people are going to look closely at your resume, whether it's online or going to look quickly. They're not going to look closely. They're going to look quickly at your resume, whether it's online or something that's been uploaded to a job application or through a job application site, or you send it directly to them. Abilities, again, it's consistent theming. So this is nice as far as with having a quote. As far as what he's done, that's nice. I like it. And then he lists his skills. So this is helping for keyword search. It helps for a human also to look at it. If I'm really interested in, I don't know, I'm going to hire somebody and I need them to have PHP and Java experience, I could look at his list and say, okay, he's a star, and he's rating himself 5 stars in PHP and strong in Java here too. If I was looking for somebody with Ruby, I might say, oh, he might not be my guy. But you know what? I'd rather have honesty. That the person that, let's say Pascal here, knows something about Ruby, and maybe we can, with our own internal training or development program, help him along, or maybe he's a great hire because he's got all these other skills. But you know what? If you're really looking for a Ruby position, he probably wouldn't even apply anyways or be interested because his strength is maybe over here, for all we know. So, but you can see at a glance on his resume online. I can get a skill, see for his skills. You can see a project on GitHub that he has done using a PHP framework. Again, he's a specialist in PHP, talked about at the top and the bottom. Nice where he calls this out too as far as languages. And this is where that consistency, where you see this like in infographic resumes, where you might have these little kind of graphic things, and we have a whole lesson on infographic resumes, and there's pros and cons of that. But on an online personal website, you have a lot more freedom. You can do stuff, and certainly calling out languages that you speak is very, very important as we live in a global world. And plus, if you don't need to use that language in the company that might be looking to hire you, it shows a level of intelligence and a level of desire to learn languages, but particularly multiple languages. So you can see his mother tongue is Dutch, so good, he speaks that well. But he also considers himself daily use of English, fully fluent in English. He can get by a little bit on German and un petit peu, if I'm pronouncing that right. I believe that means a little bit of French. That's like my Spanish, muy poquito Spanish, a little bit of Spanish. English mother tongue. At least I like to think so, for me. But this is nice, right? So this is nice for Pascal. Tools, again, he's talked about his skills up top, these different skills as far as all this different type of web stuff. But by the way, this would be also a spot where you could put in some soft skills, like leading project teams or team development or manager positions, things related to that, interpersonal communication, public speaking. You could put that in there. And then if you look at tools, this gets into specific types of, software, things he's used, the ubiquitous Microsoft Office, he's familiar with Macs, some of the stuff, Adobe Firework, Windows, all this type of stuff you can kind of go through. But then there's some that are real more specific. He knows a little bit about Photoshop, but otherwise he's pretty solid in a lot of areas, particularly these areas here on the left. Again, very consistent. And then, like we started to quick look before, you got a nice quote, consistency, and then you can see some projects. And that's the idea of a personal website, is make it easier for people to learn about you, learn about your skills, learn about your abilities. And then if you have the ability to show it, that's even better. So he's showing some examples of his projects. So let's look at this one on soap. So again, he's showing his skills. See how he's got some nice web design here, where we built a website for a local barbershop, developed some tags around there with that, or related tags to that, with web development, WordPress, and it was a WordPress site, I'm going to assume. So if I click on it, it should work. It takes me right to the site. I can do it in either Dutch or English. Let's do English. Will Google translate that for me? For all those who are Dutch, sorry. And you can see this is the website he designed with the lounge, opening hours, pretty standard, type of nice little, and make an appointment online, nice little website for an independent hair designer. So there he's showing off his work, just like Just Design Tan did. So the idea, and then of course this contact stuff is at the bottom here. Now, normally I would like to have contact stuff at the top, and I think he could still do that. Now in web design, finding things like contact information at the bottom is a standard type thing, especially things like, tweeting or Facebook or whatever, or Twitter or whatever. But I don't think it's the end of the world to have it both spots. I wouldn't mind having it here, but also up here, maybe up in here somewhere, maybe a little thing up on the top, I don't know. Again, we want to make it easy for people to contact you. I don't want to have to go searching forever. I might know where to look, but others may not. So just be aware of that. So here's two examples that we looked at. One was this resume style, where you could create a whole resume online and then build in your samples of work. And then you could have this too, like we did with Just Design Tan too, where you can get at that resume and then you can see examples of work too. So hopefully this gave you some inspiration. Again, you don't have to do it. If you're an accountant or something, you might not put spreadsheets up on, especially if it's confidential, up on the web, on a personal website. But showing how things that you've done can be very, very impactful and make a difference for you getting hired. I know if I'm looking at two designers or web developers and I'm looking at somebody that's okay, or maybe has got a nice resume, but I can go somewhere and learn more about Just Design Tan, or Just Tan, but I'm going to call it Just Design Tan, or Pascal here. I can learn so much more about them and really engage with them and build even interview questions around, like, tell me how you designed that thing for the barbershop. What were some of the constraints you were working on? What were your deadlines? Those types of things. I'm just already more invested in these two because they have a personal website. So if you can do it, it can be really an advantage. So check it out and maybe consider a personal website.